What's going on, everyone? Tim Williams here. We are here to look back and review our NFL DFS lineups for week 9. What a strange week we just had. Very, very interesting. I hope you cashed. I was fortunate to cash in my main lineups here, and we'll go over some of the lineups that I had created, some of the Millie Maker entries I did, and then we'll look at some of the top contest winners. So if that sounds good to you, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We are collectively trying to just actively grow and get better as a DFS player. So yeah, let's just kind of look at some of these NFL lineups I had created. So my strategy as of late for this NFL season is to kind of create one big main lineup here, and then I'll throw some random, like, negative EV lineups into like the Millie Maker and stuff like that, just because I like to throw a shot at like some of the big prizes just for fun, right? I like to have some fun playing DFS, but I'm also still trying to grind and trying to grow my bankroll. And I know entering those Millie Maker contests isn't really the correct way of growing a bankroll, but we'd like to have a little bit of fun here too. So let's look at these lineups. I think in total I made five or six lineups here, including my main one. So my main one, as you can see, did very, very well here, $1,575. That is awesome. And then some of my Millie Maker lineups did not do so well here. I did a Jordan Love stack, just kind of by any off chance that maybe he has a good game against a bad Chiefs defense. With Aaron Jones, I thought maybe Aaron Jones could get a lot of those short passes. James Conner was pretty prevalent in most of my lineups, and I'll go over that when I review this main one here. I also did a Tyrod Taylor stack. We got some news that Tua wasn't starting for the Dolphins. I thought maybe, Houston could have a chance in this one. Zach Moss didn't do so well in that lineup. He left the game. Gaskin got a touchdown. Had a lot of Marquise Brown, and we'll talk about that when we get into our main lineups. I locked in Sweeney here, Tommy Sweeney. He played 80% of snaps last week. He is the starting tight end for the Bills, but we all know how the Bills did against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So sorry if you had the Bills in your survivor pools. I feel for you. Pour one out. But all is not lost, my friends. And then I had a Joe Burrow stack. That was in the Millie Maker. That had a 143 point total. Not bad. James Conner getting that 40 was huge. Again, I'll touch on that when I review this main lineup. But other than that, didn't really get there. Burrow had a bad game. And then I had a Jacoby Brissett, hoping he would get maybe 20 points. He was super cheap, cheaper than Jordan Love. We got that news last minute that he was going to start instead of Tua. So I built a stack with him, and I already knew it was kind of wacky. I threw Christian McCaffrey in there just for fun. And that didn't really pay off. He was 8K. That's obviously a discount from what CMC normally is. And I was just kind of hoping that he would be low owned, which he was, and that he would go off, which he didn't. Patriots defense is pretty studly, I must say. But yeah, let's look at this, the main lineup I created here. And then I had I had some success with it. Let's look at the main SPY 100K to first single entry here. I took 17th place in this one, and I'll kind of talk about how I landed on some of these plays. Last week, I put a video out reviewing week 8, and I kind of previewed week 9 here. And really, I kind of didn't really deviate from my plan here. I kind of wish I looked back at it because I talked about Hunter Renfrow a lot in that video last week. I didn't get to any of them this week, which was silly. He had a pretty good game. But anyway, this week 9 lineup, I started out with Jackson. I really wanted to get to this game. I thought this game was going to be the nuts. Jackson, poor first half. I get that he was highly owned, and specifically in this single entry contest, 35.64 fantasy points. He had an excellent game, 100-yard rushing bonus. That was awesome. And then I wanted to pair him up with Marquise Brown, who was very, very high owned. I was kind of surprised there, but he was a little bit too cheap at 6K for a wide receiver with his upside. His clear number 1 wide receiver. So I really wanted to get that correlation going. He got the 100-yard receiving bonus. That was awesome. And then I wanted to get a secondary piece in there with Baltimore. Bateman, 10 points at 4K. I will definitely take that. 5 receptions. This guy is definitely pretty sneaky. So going forward, just remember that he is their clear number 2, in my opinion. I know, you got Andrews in there as well, but as far as wide receivers go, I think he is kind of making a name for himself, the young kid there. So I wanted those pieces, and then I wanted to run it back with Jefferson. I was debating between Jefferson, Cook, and then possibly Thielen. I went with Jefferson just because of the passing upside. I thought maybe Minnesota would be kind of trailing, so they'd be throwing the ball a lot more. He got 17 points. I'm happy with that. I wish it was a little bit more at 7.5K, but he got a receiving touchdown, 69 receiving yards. Nice. Got some rushing yards in there. So he had a pretty decent game there. What I really wanted this game to be was a shootout, and it was, and went to overtime. So we talked about that in that last week's video. I didn't change my plan there. And then I went to my running backs here. Nick Chubb, I got him in, I think, the majority of my lineups this week. I like the matchup against Cincinnati. Cincinnati had a rough game the week before against the Jets, where they just ran all over that defense. So Chubb, being the only lead back there with Hunt out, really, really wanted to get there. He had 137 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, some receiving yards, a couple receptions. So he went off. He was also very highly owned. Let's talk about James Conner here. So originally I had the dude from the Giants, Freeman, Booker, one of the two. Booker, I think. Anyway, doesn't matter. So I had him originally, and then before lock, like around noon, I was just kind of looking at my lineups, and I'm like, my lineup's looking a little bit too chalky. I want to get another running back. Let's see what we have in this 5K range here. I see James Conner there. So I was wrestling between James Conner and Edwards, mainly because I like to have some late game flexibility. I like to maybe change things up, maybe late swap out, depending on how the 1 p.m. games go, East Coast time. So I looked at Conner and Edmonds. Conner had 8 touchdowns going into this one. The other guy had 1 touchdown. So clearly Conner's getting all the goal line work. He's getting the third down role. He plays that third down role. So really wanted James Conner. It was a no-brainer for me. He went out there, scored 3 touchdowns at 0.7% ownership, 0.7% ownership. That paid off huge in this contest, 40.3 points. That was awesome. Finding little gems like that just doesn't matter who else you play. And I regret, not switching out Aaron Jones. I actually didn't late swap at all, but it doesn't matter who you play. If you have a guy literally under 1% go off, you can play literally the chalkiest of all the chalk. You always hear people saying like, oh, you got to fade the chalk, fade the chalk. It doesn't matter. Sometimes you just have to get different in with one piece, especially in single entry, in my opinion. But and then tight end, I'm punting. I know that dude from Denver was super cheap and he was super chalky. I was kind of hoping he was going to bust and maybe Sweeney would get some more looks. He got 2 receptions, 10 yards. I'm not mad at that. Three points there. Just an awful game by the Buffalo Bills there. Chalk that up to variance. Who would have thought they were going to lose to Jacksonville? Not me. But Sweeney, low ownership there. I was kind of hoping that would kind of, elevate me in my contest. It didn't work out. That's fine. And then I had Aaron Jones. Again, I wanted the late night flexibility. 18.8% owned, 53 rushing yards, 5.3 points, 7.2K. Super bummed. I didn't think Jordan Love would have that terrible of a game. They were kind of hyping him up. Packers media, Packers, coaching, just saying like, he's ready. He looks good. He looks awesome. So I'm like, all right, Jones is going to get peppered. There was a small thought where I'm like, all right, they're probably going to be playing from behind. Both defenses played well. And I was kind of hoping I keep Aaron Jones in there because I knew a lot of people were going to play Chiefs defense. Therefore, I would kind of leverage myself over those people by getting Aaron Jones touchdowns. Didn't pay off. In hindsight, if I had played literally Travis Kelce at $200 less, that would have put me up to 5th place at like 185, 186 points, which would have got me $7,000. And then in my other contest would have put me, 50th in the Millie Maker, et cetera, et cetera. But I stuck with my guns there with Aaron Jones, thinking that the Packers could have done some damage to that defense, and that defense being highly owned in DFS contests. So I regret nothing there. I will gladly walk away with $1,000 in this contest and then, $600 in the other contest. That's fine. Gives me a little more money to play around with this week. But overall, and then defense, Panthers. I went with the Panthers because I just don't think the New England offense is like super special, and they're not. 24-6, they lost. One of those points being from a defensive touchdown. So really the Patriots defense is just pretty spectacular. Carolina's defense really not that bad. 2 sacks and interception, defensive return. Like they did awesome. Like they were fine. 7 points. I will take that 7 points for a defense under 3K any day of the week. So I wouldn't change anything there. But yeah, and then let's look at the winner here, 195.74. He had Booker in his lineup. He had Chubb, Jackson, Marquise Brown. Went with Manny Sanders, 5.6K, kind of under owned there, 10%, 10 points there. So he didn't really do too much. Obviously, that Bills game was a very low scoring game. Higgins, 13.8, not bad at 5.3K. Gesicki, just very consistent, 9 points there. He also had Connor. I'm going to guess that most of these winners probably had Connor in their lineups. And then the Giants D went off. So kudos to him. Very low owned defense, awesome pivot from chalky defenses like Kansas City at that range. So you just never know who can go off. I like to try to not play a chalky defense just to get different because there's so much variance that goes into it. Second place did not have James Conner, but Patterson was in there. He went off at low ownership. Similar build, right? Chubb, Jackson, Jefferson, Brown. So Renfro there. Arnold had 10 points as a punt there for tight end. So Brown's defense went off there. So defense is really carrying. Let's take a look at maybe let's see. A lot of losses there. Millie Maker 250 there, which was nice. It's the highest I've ever come in a Millie Maker contest. I'll say that much. Where should I play Crowns? But yeah, R. Bradley 23 205 solo Millie Maker winner. Went with Justin Herbert. Super low ownership, 3.5K. Put up a huge score there. Went with Chubb. Moss busted, but he still took home $1 million. Allen, nice pair there with Herbert. Let's see if he had any run backs. He didn't. You don't got to run it back, folks. If the other team sucks, you don't have to run it back. You can win $1 million. There's no science to DFS, right? So Chubb, Moss, Allen, Brown. He had Marquise Brown. Too cheap. Brown was just too cheap at 6K. Waddle. I thought he'd be actually higher owned than that, but he's been very consistent, getting a lot of receptions. Gesicki, a lot of Miami guys. I'm surprised. Connor there, the huge one there, 2% owned in the Millie Maker. Brown's 3% owned. Got that defensive touchdown. So listen, like you don't have, it doesn't, you don't have to go all out. You don't have to research like hours, millions of hours a week. You can literally just sit there like I did Sunday morning. We looked at it last week at week 8, right after this contest. We broke it down real quick. I didn't look at it once until Sunday morning. So literally just, a couple hours. You don't need to overthink it. I found that in years past, I would overthink things and I'm like, and I didn't know how to play DFS at all. And quite frankly, I'm still learning, right? But the point is, you definitely should be studying your lineups here. Second place, 202, similar build with Jackson. Went with Conklin as his tight end, but also had Connor there. So just, you never know who's going to go off. The guy who has literally 8 touchdowns coming into this week went off and he was very low owned. So just simple as that. This guy scores a lot, put him in your lineup. Simple as that. So that'll do it. That is the week 9 review. Make sure to follow me here on Twitter. I'll be tweeting. Feel free to reach out. Let's chat, man. Let's drop a comment below in the YouTube. Definitely reach out to me on Twitter. Follow me there. Yeah, let's talk about tonight's Monday Night Football game. I'll post a video for that, breaking that one down a little bit later. So make sure you are subscribed and hit that notification bell so you know when I put that Monday Night Football video out. I hope this video helped me. It certainly helps me look back. So take it easy. Peace out. Good luck.